Boom, it works. I'm always like amazed when these things work, even though by now we should know what we're doing. But
right.
Hey, so obviously, Joe, we're pumped. You made the big decision to go ahead and jump on board and join us here at eXp. So we thought maybe we just kind of take a couple minutes and chat with you about what went into that, or at least to a degree, what went into that decision-making process and why you pulled the trigger.
I mean, realistically, I think it's just, thinking about, 10, 15, 20 years from today, most agents get to a point where you got to think more about the long haul, and in the long game, what do you want to look like? What do you want your business to look like? Do you want to still be transactional, or do you want to have something that you can run autonomously? And, eXp for me was just the platform to enable me to do that.
Yeah. I think that's interesting too. You mentioned, right, is don't be transactional. I think that's a trap that a lot of agents fall into. And it's I don't know, I swear buyers and sellers can smell it when you're that way. But it's that, and then, right, like you said, kind of the long-term side of it is, how do I go from just an agent that's focused on commissions and the next deal to, building something that's a little more whole and actually building a business, right? As far as generating wealth, and of course, ultimately the exit strategy and how you achieve that.
Right. I mean, if you think about it, you can make great income as an agent, but at the end of the day, you're only as good as your last deal, right? So how do you cast, how do you fish with the net, versus having to just fish one at a time with a fishing pole? And the only way to really do that is to build up a business within, the real estate world, and the best platform to do that. I just saw was what eXp was already doing. So instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, you just join the winning team.
Yeah, and I think, you've been across all kinds of different mediums within the real estate world itself. Right? You kind of started out and spent quite a few years in the lending side, right?
Yeah, I spent about 22 years in lending, both retail, wholesale, secondary, so it's not really a new industry. It's just a different side of it, and so I think just if you're not growing, you're dying in business. And so to me, real estate was kind of like the next iteration of the side that I have not mastered. Luckily, a lot of the fundamentals are the same, but at the end of the day, I think it's also just really important to just think about, how do you grow a business? I remember I was in a seminar and, it was a trick question. The trainer was saying, what's better than fishing, with a fishing pole one at a time? And everybody's like, well, you cast the net, right? You catch more. He's like, wrong. He's like, you throw a stick of dynamite. And then you disrupt everything. He says, because at that point, it's not just maybe catching 10 or 20 fish, you're talking about hundreds. And it just blew my mind. That analogy just nailed it. I said, how do we take, a traditional model of real estate and how do you blow it up to that level, right? And the only way to really do that is to look at it from like a national or even an international perspective, and just as I saw what eXp was looking to do with the international expansion, and just the collaboration between that, I'm just like, well, these guys are already doing that. So instead of trying to spend the money and time and energy to try to build something like that, why don't you just, what I'm saying? Figure out what they're doing.
I laughed when you said throw the stick of dynamite in, because that's the first thing I thought of. But no, that's exactly it, right? And it's obviously the model itself is disruptive, and the technologies that follow it are disruptive. And but at the same time, that's what creates the opportunity. And I think that a lot of people out there push it away or push it aside because, it could be a number of things. Either they're scared, they're too comfortable, or they think it's too good to be true. And when you put those limiting beliefs on yourself, when it's like the old saying, right? When you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. And like you say, okay, let's not just look at it now in this hyper local, mindset. Which, obviously there's great money to be made there, right? And we all make or can make fantastic money just on the sales side and owning kind of our local market, so to speak. But
Sure.
when you look at building an actual business, something of substance, and then eventually achieving that freedom aspect of it. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm not, not to offend anybody, but I'm not going to be the 70-year-old agent out there still opening lockboxes. And so it's like, putting the pieces in place to create that exit strategy, setting, the right people around you to help propel that, right? It's people that have been there before. And kind of like you said, I mean, the platform is here to do it. Then it just kind of comes down to us to executing. And that's even before, like same thing as you. I mean, when I made this move, it was like, okay, I'm making fantastic money. I've got a great business going, but I want more. And how do I grow? And I kept running into the same issue of, if I wanted growth, it was going to be, spending a ton more money to build up the back end, and then a ton more time. And I wasn't willing to give up the second part, right? I mean, the time is everything. And if I've got to be spending more time away from my family, just at that point, it wasn't worth it. So, luckily this platform came across, and, the opportunity and the technology is there. And you just mentioned like the international growth. We just opened South Africa a couple of days ago. So
that's what's up.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's pretty sweet. Mexico's the big one, man. As soon as Mexico comes, get ready. But no, and right, it's the opportunities there, and then it kind of comes down to alignment, who you surround yourself around, and the opportunities that arise from that. And it's the disruptive part of it, right? I've never seen a model in this industry where it's aligned people the way this company does. I think that this industry as a whole kind of tends to be a little more divisive naturally. So when you have, it's like now you have, right, is everybody coming together and collaborating and sharing, and I guess it's the reason why it's the fastest growing company in the nation right now.
Right. I mean, there was I think the guy's name was Lauer or something, but he said it and he coined it in this phrase, and he says, if you want to go fast, you go alone. He's like, but if you want to go far, you go with other people. And that's really I think the fundamental, really collaborative, the team aspect of that eXp does, that it's better than most other teams that I've ever seen. I mean, most brokerage teams have like this family dynamic, which is great. I mean, I came from a great team dynamic. Everybody loved one another, but at the end of the day, you're only going to go as far as you can get, right? But when you start to have, your family starts to expand, and you've got family in Texas, you got family in New York, you got family in Missouri, Tennessee, whatever, then all of a sudden your reunions and how far you can go starts to change, right? It starts to shift, and I think that's really kind of how you got to look at this thing. And that's how I'm looking at it. I mean, we're able to not just collaborate, but we're able to just reach more, because if I've got, eXp family in all other states, how can you add another 10 transactions to the end of each and every month? Well, simple. You just refer out, right? You guys work something out, but then now you have somebody with boots on the ground in Tennessee, and I don't need to fly there, right? How can I be at 100 places at one time? Well, great. I'll reach out to my family. They reach out to me, and all of a sudden you're able to do so much more, and you start to see the scale, and it'll just blow you away.
That's exactly it, right? The scale and the opportunity, because prior in the old models, right, we're pretty much bound by geography, and right, we're blowing the doors off of that mindset now, which is awesome. It really is. So and then we kind of mentioned, right, I mean, the alignment and who you surround yourself and all that stuff with makes a big difference. And we were chatting just for a couple minutes before this, and you mentioned that you got a DocuSign that just came through the wire just before we hopped on here. So, I guess maybe you could, I don't want to share too much about it, but obviously it seems to have paid pretty quick dividends for you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, at the end of
I'm
the
going to make
day,
you brag here a little bit. I know that you're a humble guy, but what you pulled off there was pretty sweet.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a referral from another client. It's another one of his business partners, but you know, I think just being able to, I mean, to me, at the end of the day, it's just about getting the right, you know, the job done for your client, you know. And
Yeah.
so we'll see. It's a
No,
pretty big, pretty
absolutely
big
it is.
fit, but if it, you know, my goal right now is to just get that sucker sold.
I think right there was conversations that were had obviously behind doors with all of us, and you performed, but you know, not to brag a little bit, but that was what, a 700K 750K reduction you got on a property.
Yeah, you know.
So
But that was
the
honestly, and
strategies work.
that's where the teamwork makes the dream work, because it was your insight, right? I'm like, hey, if I'm not an expert at something, I'm not stupid enough to pretend that I am. I'm going to go seek out an expert, and your advice really helped to lock in that deal. You
Well,
know, I think we saw that we were honest, we were upfront about the information. You know, we were realistic about the market and what it can yield, and you know what they're looking at. And you know, at the end of the day, it was really just a decision for them that about, hey, you know, do we want to sit there and hang our hat on hope, you know, as a strategy, or do we want to take a look at really what's happening in this market and play, you know, position this thing in the right way so that way it can sell, you know, and it can sell quickly.
No, and that's exactly it, right? You were direct, you were upfront, you didn't sugarcoat it. They were able to see that, and you were able to, you know, articulate the value of yourself and you know, obviously the property as well. But cool, man. I'm pumped, and like we said, right, that just kind of shows you. I mean, it's no matter what the problem is, I guarantee you, we have somebody on our roster who's been there or done it.
Absolutely.
Top to bottom, man. I'll stack it up against anybody. But I'm pumped for what's ahead, and glad that you joined us, and the timing was finally right. You know, I think you were there. Oh, was that probably a year and a half ago or something, when Doug and I gave a presentation, and you know, everything kind of circled around or came full circle, and we're able to join forces and go have fun doing it.
Yep, and we'll continue to do so.
Sweet. Sounds good, brother. Well, we'll talk to you soon, and let's get after it.
All right, man.
All right,
Chatting with you.
man.
Thanks. Bye.